All right, so Thanksgiving weekend 2024.
Yeah,
It blew the box office out of the water.
it really did.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard the buzz by now, but we're going to dive deep into why this wasn't just any good weekend.
Yeah.
It was a record-shattering one.
It was a record-shattering weekend, and I'm
Yeah.
not just talking leftovers.
Yeah.
This was the kind of feast that makes Hollywood studios,
Oh, yeah.
do a victory dance.
For sure.
Yeah.
So we're talking Moana 2.
Yeah.
Making waves.
Right.
Wicked, casting a spell.
Yes.
And Gladiator II, proving that those historical epics,
They still got it.
they still got it.
Yeah, real power trio.
Yeah.
And, each one tapped into something unique in the audience, which is key when you think about why Thanksgiving weekend is such a big deal for movies in the first place.
Yeah, why I Face Thanksgiving such a big deal for the movie industry.
Well, families are together.
Right.
Everyone's looking for that shared experience.
That makes sense.
And studios know it.
They do.
So they roll out the big guns.
Right, it's like the perfect storm for
Yeah.
a big box office.
It's a perfect storm. And this year,
Yeah.
it resulted in the biggest Thanksgiving weekend box office ever.
Really?
Ever. We're talking blowing past the 2018 record, which was considered huge at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break down these box office titans, starting with Moana 2.
Okay.
This wasn't just a sequel riding on the original's coattails. This thing made a whopping $225.2 million domestically in just 5 days.
Wow.
And globally, $389 million.
That's not just impressive, it's record-breaking.
Yeah?
Biggest 5-day opening in history, the top Thanksgiving opening AD gross of all time.
Wow.
And for Disney Animation specifically.
Yeah.
This is their biggest launch ever.
So it beat out even Frozen 2,
It did.
which was riding high on that Let It Go wave.
It did. Now, animated sequels rarely outperform their originals to this degree.
Right.
So we have to ask what made Moana 2 such a phenomenon.
Yeah, what do you think is behind this Moana 2 phenomenon?
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is tacking into that nostalgia, right?
I mean, yeah, you've got the
Get the beloved character.
beloved characters.
The music.
Right.
But it goes deeper than that.
You're telling me Moana itself was about more than just catchy tunes, right?
Hmm.
It dealt with environmentalism, Polynesian representation themes that are even more relevant now than they were back in 2016.
Exactly. And I think that's a huge part of Moana 2's success.
Yeah.
It wasn't just retreading familiar ground.
Right.
It was speaking to audiences on a deeper level, especially those families with young kids who are growing up in a world increasingly aware of these issues.
Yeah, that makes sense. And plus, let's be honest, Disney knows how to market a family film,
Oh, for sure.
especially during the holidays.
Especially during the holidays. Yeah, they position this as the movie to see with your loved ones. And judging by those numbers, it worked.
Yeah, it seems like it.
A quarter of the audience was under 12, but it also pulled in older demographics.
Wow.
And there was a strong female skew, which is interesting.
It shows you the power of a good story.
Yeah.
It resonates across generations.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to Wicked, the musical adaptation
Okay.
that everyone's been buzzing about. It raked in a cool $118.2 million over the Thanksgiving weekend,
Wow.
bringing its domestic total to $263.1 million.
And globally, it's already soaring past $360 million,
Wow.
proving that this story translates across cultures.
So Wicked had a lot going for it.
It did.
You've got the built-in fan base from the Broadway show,
Right.
which has been a phenomenon for years.
You already have a devoted audience eager to see this story on the big screen.
Right.
And then you add the star power of Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo,
Yeah.
two powerhouse vocalists.
Talk about casting gold.
Yes, and John M. Chu directing.
Oh, yeah, he's so talented.
He brought a really fresh vision to this, I thought.
He did.
Yeah, Chu's style is perfect for translating a stage production to film.
Yeah.
It's dynamic, visually captivating,
Uh-huh.
and he managed to honor the original while adding his own cinematic flair.
Like a tough balance to strike.
It is.
But he seems to have done it.
He did, and that blend is crucial for appealing to both old fans and newcomers.
Yeah, and with Wicked, it feels like you're tapping into something very timely, too,
Yeah.
right? The themes of friendship, challenging authority, finding your voice.
Yes,
Those resonate strongly in our current social climate.
absolutely. It's a story about defying expectations
Right.
and embracing what makes you different, which is a powerful message, especially for younger viewers.
Yeah, especially for younger viewers. And speaking of breaking records, did you know that Wicked just surpassed Grease to become the highest-grossing Broadway adaptation domestically?
Really?
Wow, that's huge.
Dude.
It's fascinating how this Thanksgiving weekend gave us these very different types of films,
It did.
all finding their own massive audience.
Yeah.
So let's talk Gladiator II, which decided to go head-to-head with those family-friendly behemoths
Okay.
that we were just talking about.
And held its own remarkably well.
Yeah, it did.
Over Thanksgiving, it brought in $44 million, bringing its domestic total to $111.2 million. And globally, it's already at a very respectable $320 million.
Not bad at all, considering the competition.
Not bad.
But this is where that strategy of counter-programming comes in, right?
Right.
While Moana 2
Mm-hmm.
and Wicked were going for that broad family audience, Gladiator 2 targeted a specific demographic that's often overlooked during these big release weekends.
For sure.
Adult males looking for something
Right.
a little more intense.
A little more intense. Yeah, it's a smart move.
Right.
And it paid off, but Gladiator 2 had more going for it than just good timing.
Right.
It's a strong film in its own right,
Yeah.
honoring the legacy of the original while expanding the story in a compelling way. You've got Ridley Scott directing, bringing that epic scope and visual grandeur he's known for.
Right. And plus Denzel Washington and Paul Mescal.
Yes.
That's a pairing that's going to draw in the crowds.
Absolutely. Washington brings that gravitas, and Mescal is a rising star with a lot of buzz. And I think what's interesting here is that while Gladiator 2 is a historical epic, it tackles themes of power ambition and the struggle for justice,
Right.
which are timeless and always relevant.
So even though it's set in the past, it's speaking to something.
It is.
Very present in our own world.
Very much so.
Okay, but let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here.
Okay.
The overall Thanksgiving box office exceeded $425 million,
Wow.
shattering the previous record of $316 million from 2018.
That's a huge jump.
That's a huge EE jump.
It is, and it's a sign of something really interesting happening in the entertainment landscape.
Okay, what do you see happening?
I think we're witnessing a potential turning point for cinema, a resurgence in a post-pandemic world where people are craving shared experiences again.
It's like that Barbenheimer effect we saw earlier this year. Audiences proving they'll turn out for diverse films.
Yes.
Each offering something unique.
Exactly.
And it collectively revitalizes the box office.
Exactly. And I think what this Thanksgiving weekend demonstrates is that this wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
We're seeing a shift in how studios are approaching releases.
Interesting.
Strategically choosing films that cater to specific tastes, all contributing to a bigger, more diverse cinematic landscape.
That's a good thing, right?
It is a very good thing.
More variety for moviegoers.
Absolutely. And it seems like the concept of event movies is back in a big way.
Yeah, it does seem that way.
These aren't just films you watch. They're
Uh-huh.
experiences you share with others.
So what does all this mean for the future of entertainment?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is.
Is this a lasting trend or a temporary surge?
Right.
Are we seeing a real shift in audience preferences, or are we just riding a wave of pent-up demand after years of limited theatrical releases?
It's hard to say for sure.
It is.
But I guess that's where it gets really interesting, and we'll definitely be unpacking those questions as we continue this deep dive.
For sure. Yeah, it's a fascinating time to be analyzing these trends.
It really is.
But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think it's important to acknowledge this isn't just about numbers, right?
Sure.
This Thanksgiving box office explosion,
Mm-hmm.
it tells us something about what audiences are craving right now.
Right.
What resonates with them on a cultural level.
Okay, so let's dive into that a bit.
Yeah,
You've been studying box office trends for years.
I have.
What do you think these three films, Moana 2, Wicked, and Gladiator 2,
Yeah.
say about us as a society
Mhm.
right now? What's the takeaway for you?
Well, I think if you look at Moana 2, with its focus on family adventure and that connection to nature,
Right.
it speaks to a certain longing for simpler times.
I can see that.
You know, a desire for escapism,
Mm-hmm.
and those heartwarming stories that offer a sense of hope and optimism.
Yeah, especially after the few years we've all had.
Exactly.
It's comforting to
Okay.
revisit those familiar characters
Yeah,
and worlds that offer a sense of stability and joy.
absolutely.
I know I felt that watching it.
Right.
And then you have Wicked, which, while still a fantasy musical, tackles some pretty weighty themes. Friendship acceptance, challenging societal norms.
Big time. And I think it reflects our ongoing conversations about identity inclusion
Yeah.
and the power of individual voices, which are more relevant now than ever.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a story that really speaks to that idea of embracing what makes you different.
Yes.
And I think that resonates strongly with younger audiences in particular,
Especially younger audiences.
who are navigating a world
Right.
that's constantly trying to put them in boxes.
It's about finding your tribe, finding your voice, and having the courage to use it.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And then there's Gladiator II, which, even though it's set in the past, explores those timeless themes of power, ambition,
Yes.
and the struggle for justice,
Timeless.
which feel very relevant to our current world.
Very much so.
It's a reminder that history often repeats itself.
It does.
And those battles for what's right are ongoing in every generation.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at these three films as a reflection of society,
Sure.
what's the overall picture you see emerging?
I think it points to a society that's grappling with complex issues,
Yeah,
searching for both escapism and meaning,
that makes sense.
and looking for stories that challenge them, inspire them, and remind them of their shared humanity.
It's like those three films, while very different in genre and tone,
Right.
all tap into that universal need for connection,
Yeah.
for stories that make us feel something,
Yes.
think something,
Uh-huh.
and ultimately leave us feeling a little less alone in the world.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
And I think it speaks to the enduring power of cinema.
It does.
Even in a world that's increasingly fragmented and dominated by screens,
Yes.
people are still drawn to that collective experience
They are.
of watching a story unfold in a darkened theater,
Right.
sharing those last gasps and tears
Uh-huh.
with complete strangers.
There's a magic to that.
They're a bees.
You're
You
like,
don't get that same feeling watching something at home alone.
not at all. It's about being part of something larger than yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we're seeing this resurgence of the theatrical experience.
It makes sense.
You know, after years of streaming dominance where everything is tailored to individual preferences and algorithms,
Right?
people are craving that sense of community,
Makes sense.
that shared experience that only cinema can offer.
And it seems like studios are taking notice,
Oh, I think they are.
right? Investing in those big, bold films
Yeah.
that are meant to be seen on the big screen
Mm-hmm.
with stunning visuals,
Absolutely.
immersive sound stories that demand to be shared and discussed afterward.
Yeah, it's a smart move.
It seems to be.
They're recognizing that audiences are hungry for more than just content.
Right.
They're looking for experiences, for events that break through the noise
Yeah.
and offer something truly special.
So where do we go from here?
Right.
What does this mean for the future of entertainment?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Will this Thanksgiving surge lead to a lasting shift in audience behavior, or
Right.
was it a unique moment in time? Will studios continue to invest in theatrical releases, or will streaming eventually take over entirely?
It's like we're at a crossroads,
We are.
and there's so many different paths we could take.
Exactly. And I think it's too early to say definitively which path we'll choose.
Right.
But what's exciting is that the possibilities are wide open.
That's true.
We're seeing a resurgence of creativity, a willingness to experiment,
Uh-huh.
and a renewed focus on the power of storytelling.
I like that.
I think the future of entertainment is bright, full of potential and innovation.
And I, for one, am excited to see where it takes us.
Me too.
Now, before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
The idea that the box office reflects our cultural landscape.
Right.
What do you think this record-breaking Thanksgiving tells us about the evolving relationship between cinema and society?
That's a great question. I think it highlights the fact that cinema isn't just a form of entertainment. It's a powerful mirror,
I like that.
reflecting our collective hopes, fears, and aspirations.
Yeah.
These films, whether they're animated adventures, musical fantasies, or historical epics,
Right.
they all tap into something deep within us, something that resonates with our experiences, our values, and our understanding of the world.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to society, showing us who we are, what we care about,
Exactly.
and where we might be headed.
Precisely. And I think what this Thanksgiving weekend demonstrates is that audiences are hungry for stories that challenge them,
Right.
that make them think, and that offer a glimpse into different perspectives and experiences.
It's not just about escaping reality anymore.
No.
It's about engaging with it,
Right.
understanding it,
Yes.
and perhaps even finding ways to change it.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful testament to the evolving role of cinema in our society.
Yeah.
It's no longer just a passive form of entertainment. It's an active force shaping our conversations, our values, and our understanding of the world around us.
So what does this all mean for us? The moviegoers. What should we take away from this record-breaking Thanksgiving weekend?
Well, I think the key takeaway is that cinema is far from dead.
I agree.
In fact, it seems to be experiencing a vibrant resurgence,
It does.
fueled by a desire for shared experiences, diverse storytelling, and a renewed appreciation for the power of the big screen.
It's like we're rediscovering the magic of movies.
We are.
And that's a beautiful thing to witness.
It is, and as we move forward, I
Nah.
think it's important to remember that we, the audience, have a role to play in shaping the future of entertainment.
So what can we do?
By supporting the films that resonate with us,
Okay.
by engaging in conversations about the stories that move us,
Yeah.
and by continuing to seek out those cinematic experiences that challenge us, inspire us, and connect us to something larger than ourselves.
So it's not just about buying a ticket.
No?
It's about being an active participant in the cinematic conversation.
Exactly. Every ticket purchased, every conversation started, every thought provoked contributes to the evolving landscape of cinema and its impact on our society.
Yeah, it's like we're not just viewers anymore.
Right.
We're active participants in shaping the future of cinema.
Exactly. And I think this Thanksgiving weekend, with its diverse offerings and record-breaking numbers, is a testament to the power of audience engagement. It shows that when studios take risks, when they offer something unique and thought-provoking,
Yeah.
audiences respond in a big way.
They vote with their wallets,
They do.
which speaks volumes in Hollywood.
It does. So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave our listeners with something to ponder.
Okay.
We've talked about these big trends, the resurgence of cinema, the power of shared experiences, but ultimately it comes down to the individual, right? What does the future of entertainment hold for you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, what kind of stories are you seeking out?
Right.
What role does cinema play in your life?
Those are great questions.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to remember that, it's not an either situation.
Right.
We can enjoy those big, epic blockbusters.
Right.
And seek out smaller, independent films that challenge us in different ways.
Absolutely.
We can embrace the convenience of streaming
For sure.
and still appreciate the magic of a darkened theater.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance, that sweet spot where you're engaging with stories that entertain, inspire, and make you think.
Yeah, I like that.
And who knows, maybe those reflections will lead you to discover something new,
Right.
a hidden gem you might have otherwise missed.
It's like a cinematic treasure hunt.
Exactly.
Speaking of discoveries, I have to ask, what surprised you most about this Thanksgiving weekend box office? Was there anything that caught you off guard?
Well, I'll admit the sheer magnitude of Moana 2's success was pretty astonishing. I knew it would do well,
Right.
but to break so many records,
Yeah.
that was unexpected. I think it really speaks to the power of tapping into those timely themes and that cross-generational appeal.
Yeah, it's a reminder that sometimes those sequels can be more than just cash grabs.
They can.
They can be opportunities to expand upon a beloved story
Right.
and address issues that resonate with audiences on a deeper level.
Absolutely. And I think that's a lesson that Hollywood is starting to take to heart.
It seems like it.
We're seeing more sequels and franchises that are willing to take risks,
Yeah.
to subvert expectations,
Right.
and to offer something truly fresh and engaging.
Which is great news for us, the viewers.
It is.
More surprises, more variety,
Yeah,
more reasons to keep going back to the movies.
for sure.
So before we officially say goodbye, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? Any parting thoughts on the future of entertainment?
Just this keep exploring,
Okay.
keep questioning, and keep seeking out those stories that move you, challenge you, and remind you of the power of human connection. Whether you're watching a film in a crowded theater or streaming something at home, remember that you're part of a larger conversation, a cultural dialogue that's constantly evolving.
Beautifully said.
Ah,
And hey, while you're mulling all this over, why not revisit a favorite Thanksgiving movie?
that's a great idea.
Or better yet, gather some friends and family and head to your local cinema. Who knows, you might just be part of the next box office phenomena.
You might. That's the spirit. And remember, every ticket purchased, every laugh shared, every conversation sparked contributes to the vibrant tapestry of cinema. It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers, we're active participants in shaping the future of entertainment.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive into a truly record-breaking Thanksgiving at the box office. Thanks for joining us on this journey, and until next time, keep watching, keep exploring, and keep believing in the magic of movies.